Hollywood has given us unforgettable stars. But behind the spotlight were friendships torn apart by jealousy, rivalry, and betrayal. These are 18 famous friendships that ended in shocking ways. 18. Greta Garbo, Mercedes de Acosta. Greta Garbo was one of the Hollywood's most mysterious stars, fiercely private and guarded. Her closest companion was writer Mercedes de Acosta, who knew Garbo's secrets and shared an intimate bond with her. For years, Mercedes was the one person Garbo truly trusted. But in 1960, Mercedes published a memoir exposing details of their friendship, hinting at private moments Garbo had always wanted hidden. For Greta, who valued privacy above all else, it was a devastating betrayal. She cut Mercedes out of her life completely, never forgiving her. Their deep personal bond ended in silence. The story of Garbo and de Acosta is a haunting reminder. When you give someone your secrets, you give them power. And if they betray you, the wound lasts forever. 17. Howard Hughes. His inner circle. Howard Hughes was a man who trusted no one. Eccentric, brilliant, and paranoid, he kept a tight circle around him. These men were supposed to protect him, guard his empire, and keep his secrets. But money changes loyalty. Over time, those closest to Hughes began exploiting him, draining his fortune, controlling his movements, and feeding his paranoia instead of protecting him. The people he trusted most became the very ones who used him. For Hughes, already fragile and reclusive, it was devastating. His worst fear, that no one could truly be trusted, turned out to be true. His story shows that betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes, it comes from the people standing closest to you. 16. Montgomery Clift, Elizabeth Taylor. Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor were famously close, almost soulmates in friendship. She defended him, cared for him, and stood by him after the horrific car accident that left him disfigured. Hollywood admired their loyalty. But whispers said Clift felt betrayed when Elizabeth revealed too much of his private struggles, including his drinking and pain, to people in Hollywood. For a man as private as Clift, it was humiliating. Though Elizabeth's intentions may have been rooted in concern, Monty saw it as a breach of trust. Their bond never returned to what it once was. It's a tragic reminder that sometimes, even when a friend thinks they're helping, it can still feel like betrayal. 15. Ava Gardner, Lana Turner. Ava Gardner and Lana Turner were Hollywood goddesses, beautiful, bold, and inseparable. They shared nights out, whispered secrets, and laughed like sisters. But in Hollywood, love triangles are dangerous territory. The friendship shattered when Ava allegedly pursued a man Lana loved. In an industry already brimming with jealousy, that kind of betrayal cut deep. Lana, heartbroken, never forgave her. The women who once shared champagne and secrets now avoided each other at parties, their icy stares speaking louder than words. For fans, it was just another Hollywood rivalry. But for Ava and Lana, it was personal. Proof that even the closest friendships could be destroyed by jealousy and desire. 14. Bing Crosby, Bob Hope. To audiences, Bing Crosby and Bob Hope looked like lifelong buddies. They starred in comedy classics, traded jokes effortlessly, and gave the illusion of unshakable friendship. But behind the curtain, cracks were forming. Crosby was competitive, guarded, and not as warm as he appeared on screen. Hope, sharp-tongued and always chasing the spotlight, often pushed too far. The balance that made their on-screen chemistry magical became a source of resentment off-screen. They never exploded publicly, but insiders whispered that their friendship was paper-thin. Behind every joke was tension, behind every laugh was rivalry. Their betrayal wasn't a single dramatic moment. It was the quiet realization that the happy duo everyone adored was little more than an act. In Hollywood, even laughter can be a mask. 13. Elvis Presley, Red West. Elvis Presley trusted few people in his whirlwind life, but Red West was one of them. Red was his bodyguard, his friend, his brother-in-arms from the early days. They toured together, laughed together, and built a bond Elvis thought was unshakable. But fame is a strange beast. As Elvis spiraled deeper into prescription drugs and reckless living, Red tried to step in. When Elvis ignored him, Red took another path. He wrote a tell-all book exposing Elvis's darkest habits, shocking the world. For Elvis, it was the ultimate betrayal. A man he trusted with his secrets, a man who'd been by his side for years, had cashed in on his pain. Fans were divided. Some thought Red was trying to save him, others believed it was pure revenge. Either way, Elvis felt betrayed by the one friend he thought would never turn on him. And in his final years, the king learned that even loyalty could be bought and sold. 12. Joan Fontaine. Olivia de Havilland. Sisters by blood, rivals by choice. Joan Fontaine and Olivia de Havilland grew up in the same household, chased the same dream, and both found success in Hollywood. But instead of celebrating each other, they turned against one another. Yet competition poisoned their bond. When Olivia won an Oscar, Joan accused her of betrayal, saying she never supported her. When Joan succeeded, Olivia downplayed it. Their feud went public, with journalists fanning the flames. Hollywood loved the drama, but for the sisters it was deeply personal. What makes their story tragic is that their betrayal wasn't just between friends, it was between family. The bond of sisterhood was torn apart by jealousy, pride, and decades of bitterness. To the world, they were stars. To each other, they were enemies. And that, perhaps, is the cruelest betrayal of all. 11. Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Charlie Chaplin and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. were pioneers, changing cinema forever. At one point, they were allies, visionaries who dreamed of shaping Hollywood's future. But success and scandal don't mix well in friendship. As Chaplin faced controversies, political accusations, personal scandals, Fairbanks slowly stepped away. He chose to protect his own reputation instead of standing beside his friend. Chaplin saw it as betrayal. When he needed loyalty most, Fairbanks abandoned him. The pain was not just in losing a friend, but in realizing that Hollywood friendships often came with conditions. When you're at the top, everyone's around. When you fall, you stand alone. For Chaplin, it was a bitter truth, that even a friend who once shared your dreams could walk away when things turned dark. 10. Clark Gable. Carol. Lombard's friends. Clark Gable and Carol Lombard were Hollywood's dream couple, madly in love, fiercely loyal. When Lombard tragically died in a plane crash, Gable was shattered. He leaned on his circle of friends, expecting them to be there in his darkest moment. But many of those so-called friends quietly disappeared. They couldn't handle his grief, his silence, his anger. Instead of standing by him, they moved on, leaving Gable to face the loss alone. For a man who had given so much loyalty to others, the absence was a betrayal. Grief reveals the truth about friendships, and Gable discovered that many of his closest companions were only around for the good times, not the hard ones. It wasn't a loud betrayal, it was abandonment, the kind that cuts deeper than any insult. And for Gable, it proved that even in Hollywood's brightest circles, loyalty is rare. 9. Laurence Olivier, Vivien Leigh. Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh were Hollywood's golden couple. On stage and screen, they dazzled audiences, their love story inspiring millions. But behind the glamour was heartbreak. Vivien battled severe mental health struggles, slipping into depression and mood swings. At first, Olivier stood by her, but as her condition worsened, he grew distant. Instead of protecting her, he turned cold and sought comfort elsewhere. Affairs and emotional distance replaced the support Vivien desperately needed. For her, the betrayal wasn't just as a wife, it was as a friend, a partner who once promised to be her anchor. The world saw them as perfect, but inside, Vivien felt abandoned by the one person who should have stood by her through everything. Their story ended not in fairy tale romance, but in loneliness and heartbreak. It's a reminder that sometimes betrayal isn't in lies or rivalries. It's in the absence of love when it's needed most. 8. Katharine Hepburn, Ginger Rogers. Katharine Hepburn and Ginger Rogers were two of Hollywood's strongest women. Fierce, talented, and unforgettable. At first, they respected each other, but competition was unavoidable. Both wanted the best roles, the spotlight, and the recognition that only one could truly hold. The friendship slowly soured into rivalry. Hepburn, proud and unyielding, saw Rogers as a threat. Rogers, graceful yet determined, felt Hepburn's coldness. The industry fueled it too. Producers and journalists often compared them, planting seeds of jealousy. What made it betrayal wasn't shouting matches or public insults. It was the quiet hostility. Icy stares at parties, whispers behind each other's backs, and a refusal to support one another. Hollywood could have had two powerful women standing together, but instead they were pitted against each other. Their story is a reminder that betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the friend who turns into a rival without ever saying a word. 7. Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney. On screen, Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney looked like the very picture of friendship. MGM paired them in musicals where they laughed, danced, and seemed inseparable. Off-screen, Judy believed Mickey was her closest ally. He was the fun, lively boy next door, and she thought he understood the pressure of growing up in Hollywood. But behind the curtain, things were different. Mickey often made jokes at Judy's expense, mocking her insecurities and struggles with her weight. For Judy, who was already being pushed to dangerous extremes by studio executives, these jabs felt like betrayal. She wanted support, not laughter at her pain. As Judy's troubles deepened with pills and exhaustion, Mickey drifted further away. Instead of helping her carry the weight of fame, he turned into another person who dismissed her struggles. Their bond, once genuine, cracked under the pressure. In the end, Judy realized that the boy who played her friend on screen was not truly there when she needed him. And sometimes betrayal isn't grand or dramatic. It's the silence of a friend who walks away when you're drowning. 6. Orson Welles, John Houseman. Orson Welles and John Houseman were once a creative dream team. Together they made history with Citizen Kane and the Mercury Theater. They were brothers in art, pushing each other toward greatness. But fame has a way of dividing even the closest friends. As Welles's star rose, his ego grew. He accused Houseman of taking credit, of riding on his genius. Houseman, frustrated by Welles's arrogance, fought back. What started as respect turned into suspicion. What started as loyalty turned into bitterness. Soon, the partnership was over. Hollywood insiders whispered about their feud, watching two men who once changed cinema now refusing to speak to each other. The saddest part? The betrayal wasn't about lies or scandal. It was simply the erosion of trust, pride eating away at what once was brotherhood. For Welles and Houseman, friendship ended not with drama, but with silence. And silence can be the cruelest betrayal of all. 5. Alfred Hitchcock. Tippi Hedren. When Alfred Hitchcock discovered Tippi Hedren, it looked like the perfect Hollywood story. The legendary director gave an unknown actress the lead in The Birds. At first, she trusted him. He was her mentor, her guide, her ticket to stardom. But soon, the mask slipped. Hitchcock's admiration turned into obsession. He controlled everything. Her appearance, her words, even her movements. When she refused his advances, he turned cruel. The ultimate betrayal came on set, where he forced her through dangerous scenes with live birds attacking her, leaving her injured and traumatized. After she rejected him fully, Hitchcock used his power to end her career. Roles vanished, opportunities disappeared, and Hollywood turned its back on her. Hedren had thought she found a mentor. Instead, she found a man who betrayed her trust in the worst way by turning her dream into a nightmare. 4. Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis were comedy's golden duo. Together, they lit up stages, radio, and movies, making the world laugh like no one else could. On the surface, they were inseparable, but success has a way of twisting even the strongest bonds. Jerry, always energetic, wanted control. He wanted the spotlight, the credit, the glory. Dean, calm and charming, began to feel like a sidekick in his own act. The real betrayal came when Jerry publicly dismissed Dean, calling him just the straight man. To Martin, it was like a knife to the back. By 1956, after 10 years of laughter, the duo split. Their last show together was heartbreaking. They walked off stage and didn't speak for 20 years. Fans were shocked, left wondering how a friendship so magical could vanish overnight. Eventually, they shared a brief reunion, but the years of silence, the pain of betrayal, had already left scars. Their story shows that sometimes betrayal isn't loud. Sometimes, it's the quiet drift of two friends who let pride get in the way. 3. Frank Sinatra. Peter Lawford. Frank Sinatra and Peter Lawford were more than friends. They were family. Both part of the Rat Pack, they laughed, drank, and lived like kings. Sinatra even welcomed Lawford into his home as a brother. But one political decision destroyed it all. Lawford's brother-in-law was President John F. Kennedy. Sinatra wanted to be close to him, wanted the power and the prestige. At first, Kennedy visited, enjoyed the connection. But then whispers about Sinatra's mob ties grew louder. Kennedy's team pulled away and the president canceled a planned visit to Sinatra's home. Frank was humiliated, and in his eyes it was Peter Lawford who betrayed him. Instead of blaming Kennedy, Sinatra turned his fury on his friend. Overnight, Lawford was out, kicked from the Rat Pack, erased from Sinatra's life, and branded as disloyal. For Lawford, it was devastating. One moment he was Sinatra's brother, the next he was a ghost. Their friendship ended not with a fight, but with silence. Betrayed not by choice, but by politics. 2. Marilyn Monroe. Elizabeth Taylor. Marilyn Monroe and Elizabeth Taylor. The very definition of beauty and power in the 1950s. On the surface, they were friends, even sisters in a world dominated by men. But jealousy and betrayal turned that bond into quiet resentment. Marilyn was fragile, vulnerable, always seeking approval. Elizabeth, bold and confident, seemed to get everything with ease. Roles, attention, even respect from studio heads. When Taylor began landing the big parts that Marilyn desperately wanted, it stung like betrayal. Suddenly, Marilyn wasn't the studio's golden girl anymore. Instead of offering support, Elizabeth distanced herself. She played the game, while Marilyn struggled with her demons. Behind the glitz of premieres and parties, Marilyn felt abandoned by the one woman who truly understood her struggles. For Monroe, the betrayal wasn't just about losing a role. It was the realization that in Hollywood, even friends would step over you if it meant staying on top. A silent betrayal, but one that broke her heart. And 1. Bette Davis, Joan Crawford. Bette Davis and Joan Crawford looked like Hollywood royalty. To the world, they were icons who ruled the silver screen. But behind the cameras, their friendship turned into a cold war of betrayal. It started small. Crawford, the elegant star, always knew how to charm producers. Davis, fiery and fearless, prided herself on raw talent. Both wanted the crown of Queen of Hollywood, and neither was willing to share it. Then came the ultimate stab. Crawford stole a man Davis loved. From that day, the bond was broken. What followed was a rivalry so bitter it played out like a movie itself. On the set of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Davis accidentally kicked Crawford hard enough to require stitches. Crawford hit back by wearing a secretly weighted costume, making Davis struggle in front of the cameras. They weren't acting anymore. They were waging war. The betrayal cut deeper than the roles they lost or the lovers they fought over. It was two women who could have been allies, turned into lifelong enemies. And the world watched as their friendship crumbled, leaving behind one of Hollywood's most infamous feuds.